Questions? Go ahead.
Number 4.
Number 4. All right. So we want to write the equation in point slope form.
Well, I can learn that.
Well, watch the video. That's why I record for you.
That's a waste of time.
Waste of time watching my videos?
No.
Okay. So let's, in order to find this, we need to figure out what the slope is first. So the slope equation is this. And does everyone kind of see that this slope equation, if I were to move this whole document over here, this looks a lot like this equation, less the y2's and the x2's. Should look kind of similar. So I'm going to call this x1, I'll call this y1, I'll call this x2 and y2. And let's find the slope. All right, so we get a slope of that. Yes? So here's a question. Let's talk about this because this sometimes will be a thought. So if I take my slope and I take this set of points here, I'm going to get y minus 0 equals negative 1/2 x minus minus 2, which yields y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. Agree? But what would happen if I were to take this point right here? That would give me y minus minus 2, so y plus 2, equals negative 1/2 x minus 2. Two different answers, depending upon the point you pick, yes? Which one's correct?
No, the first.
They're both correct. They're both correct. Okay? This is why they're both correct. So, if I were to try and change these back into this form, y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form, if I distribute over the parentheses here, I'm going to get y equals negative 1/2 x minus 1. Agree? On this one, if I distribute here and here, I get that. So I need to move this over, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And lo and behold, what happened here? Is this answer the same as this answer?
Yes.
So is this answer correct, and is this answer correct as well?
Yes.
They're both correct. So when you're using point slope, there's actually 2 answers you could get. They would yield you the same problem if you were to put it back in slope-intercept form, but that's okay. Which one's correct? They're both correct. So if you chose one point and it had the same slope, and your neighbor chose the other point and had the same slope, and you compared answers, you're both going to be correct. So that's an interesting case that takes place with those a lot of times. Okay? So again, your answer is either one of those, red or the blue answer, depending upon which point you picked. Other questions from the homework? It was just the front and the back, right?
Yes.
Go ahead. 5? Number 5, same thing. Let's see, that's negative 4/1 is one of my points. And negative 1/2. So the first thing I need to do is I need to find the slope. So x1, y1, x2, y2. Slope equation's this. Let's see, 2 minus 1, negative 1, minus minus 4, so 1 plus 4. So this gives me a slope of 1/3. Cool? Now I'm going to use my point slope form. So I have it labeled like this. So that's my answer. Now, here's sometimes is the argument on does this work or not. We labeled this x1 and y1, therefore this x1 and y1 should be the same. That's a good argument. But what happens if the person labeled this x1 and y1? They're still going to get the same slope. And again, the answer could be flip-flopped, so you can come up with an answer of this. Minus minus 1, so plus 1. Which answer is correct? They're both correct. Okay? Yeah.
Number 6.
Number 6, you got it. So again, these are both correct answers. If I were to solve both of these, if I were to distribute 1/3 over the parentheses and then add 1, or if I distribute 1/3 over the parentheses and add 2, I get the exact same answer both ways. Number 6. They would like us to graph y minus 2 equals 1/2 x minus 4. Okay, so the point we're going to use, it's going to be opposite of this, so I'm going to get 4 comma 2, okay, and I have a slope of 1/2. And then I'm going to go up 1, right 2. Looks just like that. A lot of times, so when we start getting into something called parabolas, which is x squared, this is the standard form of a parabola or vertex form. This is just the standard form or the vertex form of a linear equation. And the linear equation doesn't have a turning point. It's constant throughout. Any other questions from the homework? 10? Y minus 1 equals 2x plus 9. So the point we're going to use, opposite here, so I'm going to get negative 9 comma 1, right? Opposite of positive 9 is negative 9, opposite of 1, or negative 1 is positive 1. And my slope is going to be equal to 2, so we can say it's 2 over 1. Negative 9, 1. It's about right there. From that point, I'm going to go up 2, right 1. Done. Any other problems? Yeah. 11. Okay. Let's get my point. So it's opposite here, and my slope has to be negative 2/3. Yes.
When they're opposites, they're both positive.
Yes. So 1 comma 2, and then a slope down 2, right 3. Anything else? Good? Okay, if you would, make sure your name is on your assignment and hand it on back, hand it on forward. Please. And then also coming out to you is old homework. Remember, there's at least 2 assignments in there for most of you. So go find both of them. If you're handing in anything old, you can also hand that in. Done. We good? All right. So we have kind of a game plan. Yeah, it's not really a game, it's just math. Okay, so I'm going to have our quiz tomorrow. We can totally handle it. So today we have, I will tell you, this quiz, so usually this is what I do for a quiz to figure out how long it's going to take you all. I take the quiz and then multiply that time by 10. Took me 45 seconds to do the whole quiz.
Really?
So it should take y'all, don't hold that against me. That's why I multiplied by 10. So that should mean you should all get it done in 450 seconds.
Which is how many minutes?
I don't know, 450 divided by 60 is 45 over 6,
Is it,
8 minutes.
Yeah, about some of that.
So I'll probably give you guys about 20 minutes tomorrow to knock it out of the park. Maybe 25.
Is it a written test or?
Yeah, it's written. Yeah, we will have part of our test on next week. No, I'm not saying that. It's just I always base my time on, and I don't use calculators or anything. You guys all got calculators. I don't have my phone out, and I don't have earbuds in. That's me. Oh, you got an earbud in. And you got another one. Nope, both out. All right. So today we have an activity that I want us to do, and I think it'll help us along quite a bit on this. On anything we do. So, this is how this activity is going to work. I'm going to pass this out, and then I'm going to tell you how to do it. So, it's kind of a packet, but don't look at it and go, oh my gosh, this is huge. It's going to take forever to do. It's going to take probably about 15 minutes total. What? Do I help? I'm not there. They do. All right. Everybody have a packet almost? So let me flip the light switch back on. Does anybody need a packet still? All right. So this is a sorting and matching activity. So don't pay attention to the first page, but your second page is this grid. Agree? It's this grid. So what you're going to do is, let me pull this up. So you have graph as one of the labels, and then it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, right? Okay, so then you're going to look for what equation goes. So the next two pages, page A, he has 6 of the graphs on it. And then the page right after that has 4 more graphs on it. So that's going to be 10 graphs, so that's A through J. Okay? Then the following page after that, you have all of these equations. So you have 10 equations, 1 through 10. The page after that, it talks about the slope of the y-intercept. And then the page after that, 21 through 30, is kind of a table of all the graphs. Now, if it's a table, if you look at problem or little 21, -2 comma -4, 0 comma -3, 2 comma -2, 4 comma 1. That's going to match up. And then the very last page, 31 through 40, talks about the graph has the same slope as graph B. This graph has a negative slope and a negative y-intercept. So you have to match up all those. So on your very first page, A through J, you look at your equation. You're looking at your graph. And so if you take a look at graph letter A. Let's just look at letter A right now. It appears to have a y-intercept of 3. Agreed? I'm on graph A. It has a negative slope. Let's count down. Looks like it's the slope of down 1, right 2. So a -1/2. So we have a -1/2 slope. Do we have a -1/2 slope on 1 through 10? Any of those have one? I'd say number 7 could, because if you did number 7, you could move x over, so you'd get 2y equals -x plus 6, and then divide everything by 2, so then you get y equals negative half x plus 3. So number 7 goes with graph A. So we've done the first one. Then the slope of the y-intercept. Okay, slope of y-intercept. What did we say the slope was?
3.
The y-intercept's 3. The slope is what?
Oh, good.
Okay, so which one of those has a slope of negative half and a y-intercept of 3? 18. Good. So then on your graph for slope and y-intercept, you're going to put the number 18. And then we have to figure out the table of values. Table of values. Okay? So you can kind of go back and forth and say, okay, a good starting point might be finding the 0, 3s, because that's the y-intercept. So it looks like 23, 25, and 29 all have 0, 3 in it. But then figure out which graph works with the rest of it. So if I flip back to my graph, it does negative 2, negative 1 exist on my graph. Negative 2, negative 1. No. Move to the next one. Okay? Let's go to 25. What about negative 2, comma 7? Does that agree on my graph? No? What about, so again, I'm looking at the 0, 3s. What about negative 2, 4? Negative 2, 4 is going to work. So now we have 2 points. All you need is 2 points to define a line. Agree? Do we have 2 points if we know 0, 3 and negative 2, 4? So number 29 has to go into under table of values. Yeah?
So how does this, we're looking at this, and then are we comparing it to
The graph A.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, the very back page says this. Let's see. Does this graph have the same slope as graph B? I have no idea. This graph has the steepest negative slope. I don't know yet. This graph has a negative slope and a negative y-intercept. Well, I know that's not it. This line is represented by the graph is perpendicular to F and G. I have no idea. This graph passes through negative 1, and has a positive slope. Well, this has negative slope, so that's not going to work. This line is represented by this graph parallel to graph F. I have no idea. Graph F would have to have the same slope, so we're not there yet. This graph passes through the point 0, negative 2. No. This equation represented by this graph is equivalent to x minus 2y equals negative 6. That might be. I don't know though. Let's see. Positive 3. Yeah, actually 38 should be the answer. Let's see. X minus 2y equals 6. So negative 2y equals negative x minus 6. Divide everything by 2. So I get, that's positive half, so that's not going to work. This line represented by this graph is parallel to graph D. I have no idea. We don't know what graph D is yet. The x-intercept of this line represented in the graph is between negative 1 and negative 2. The x-intercept of the line is represented on this graph between negative 1 and negative 2. Now it's not going to work. So the back page might be the tougher of the pages to do. So why don't we give you until 10 to get this figured out. Work with each other, figure it out. Okay? Double check to see if, I know, I got too anxious.
This is going to be the test, or kind of like it. This paper is going to be like
Maybe. Yeah, probably 4 of the problems. Like everything will be on the same sheet.
Does that say 38 over E?
So let's see. A going across is 7, 18, 29, 34. B is 10, 17, 26, 38. Yes. C is. So match up your answers. So that last page is a little goofier, but match up your answers, see if you make it work. Later today, when you're checking your grades in the grade book, you'll see that there's an in-class grade. Looks like if you were here, you got a 10 out of 10. If you weren't here, you got a 0 out of 10. Ooh. Ooh.
Oof. Oof. I love it. I love it. It's great.
also off to the side, I will put, so the homework, it's not showing up there, but I'll put the homework up here in a sec. All right, and that'll be what the homework is. We'll go over everyone. There's 14 problems. We'll go over all 14 problems before we quiz. So the reason why it's 3 pages. Nope, you already got credit for it. You are in. So I would say between, I have the hiccups and excuse me, I'm sorry. Between if you review this sheet, you review this packet, and go through and try homework on page 69 through 71, that's going to be an awesome review. Plus, at the beginning of the period, we'll have the opportunity to go through all the problems on there. I think there's 14 problems total on the homework, and that'll go for points. So you have about 6 minutes left. You can either start on the homework or continue to write down the answers from the packet, but it's your show. Just don't line up by the door, please.